The man's real object is to abduct the governor's daughter. So startling and unexpected was this conclusion that the guest sat reduced to a state of pale, petrified, genuine amazement. "My God!" she cried, clapping her hands. "I should never have guessed it." "Well, to tell you the truth, I guessed it as soon as ever you opened your mouth. So much, then, for educating girls like the governor's daughter at school. Just see what comes of it." "Yes, indeed. And they tell me that she says things which I hesitate even to repeat. Truly it wrings one's heart to see to what lengths immorality has come. Some of the men have quite lost their heads about her, but for my part I think her not worth noticing. Of course, and her manners are unbearable. But what puzzles me most is how a travelled man like Chichikov could come to let himself in for such an affair. Surely he must have accomplices?" "Yes, and I should say that one of those accomplices is Nozdrev." "Surely not." "Certainly I should say so. Why, I have known him even try to sell his own father, at all events to stake him at cards." "Indeed? And trust me, I should never have thought him capable of such things." "I always guessed him to be so." The two ladies were still discussing the matter with acumen and success when there walked into the room the public prosecutor. Bushy eyebrows, motionless features, blinking eyes and all. At once the ladies hastened to inform him of the events related, adducing therewith full details both as to the purchase of dead souls and as to a scheme to abduct the governor's daughter, after which they departed in different directions for the purpose of raising the rest of the town. For the execution of this undertaking not more than half an hour was required. So thoroughly did they succeed in throwing dust in the public's eyes, that for a while everyone, more especially the army of public officials, was placed in the position of a schoolboy, who, while still asleep, has had a bag of pepper thrown in his face by a party of more early rising comrades. The questions now to be debated resolved themselves into two, namely, the question of the dead souls and the question of the governor's daughter. To this end two parties were formed, the men's party and the feminine section. The men's party, the more absolute sentence of the two, devoted its attention to the dead souls. The women's party occupied itself exclusively with the alleged abduction of the governor's daughter, and here it may be said, to the ladies' credit, that the women's party displayed far more method and caution than did its rival faction, probably because the function in life of its members had always been that of managing and administering a household. With the ladies, therefore, matters soon assumed vivid and definite shape. They became clearly and irrefutably materialized. They stood stripped of all doubt and other impedimenta. Said some of the ladies in question, Chichikov had long been in love with the maiden, and the pair had kept tryst by the light of the moon, while the governor would have given his consent, seeing that Chichikov was as rich as a Jew. But for the obstacle that Chichikov had deserted a wife already. How the worthy dames came to know that he was married remains a mystery, and the said deserted wife, pining with love for her faithless husband, had sent the governor a letter of the most touching kind, so that Chichikov, on perceiving that the father and mother would never give their consent, had decided to abduct the girl. In other circles the matter was stated in a different way. That is to say, this section averred that Chichikov did not possess a wife, but that, as a man of subtlety and experience, he had bethought him of obtaining the daughter's hand through the expedient of first tackling the mother and carrying on with her in ardent liaison, and that thereafter he had made an application for the desired hand, but that the mother, fearing to commit a sin against religion, and feeling in her heart certain gnawings of conscience, had returned a blank refusal to Chichikov's request, whereupon Chichikov had decided to carry out the abduction alleged. To the foregoing, of course, there became appended various additional proofs and items of evidence, in proportion as the sensation spread to more remote corners of the town. At length, with these perfectings, the affair reached the ears of the governor's wife herself. Naturally, as the mother of a family, and as the first lady in the town, and as a matron who had never before been suspected of things of the kind. She was highly offended when she heard the stories, and very justly so, with the result that her poor young daughter, though innocent, had to endure about as unpleasant a tete-a-tete as ever befell a maiden of 16, while, for his part, the Swiss footman received orders never at any time to admit Chichikov to the house. Having done their business with the governor's wife, the ladies' party descended upon the male section, with a view to influencing it to their own side by asserting that the dead souls were an invention used solely for the purpose of diverting suspicion and successfully effecting the abduction. And, indeed, more than one man was converted, and joined the feminine camp, in spite of the fact that thereby such seceders incurred strong names from their late comrades, names such as old women, petticoats, and others of a nature peculiarly offensive to the male sex. Also, however much they might arm themselves and take the field, the men could not compass such orderliness within their ranks as could the women. With the former, everything was of the antiquated and rough-hewn and ill-fitting and unsuitable and badly adapted and inferior kind. Their heads were full of nothing but discord and triviality and confusion and slovenliness of thought. In brief, they displayed everywhere the male bent, the rude, ponderous nature, which is incapable either of managing a household or of jumping to a conclusion, as well as remains always distrustful and lazy and full of constant doubt and everlasting timidity. For instance, the men's party declared that the whole story was rubbish, that the alleged abduction of the governor's daughter was the work rather of a military than of a civilian culprit, that the ladies were lying when they accused Chichikov of the deed, that a woman was like a money-bag, whatsoever you put into her she thenceforth retained, that the subject which really demanded attention was the dead souls, of which the devil only knew the meaning, but in which there certainly lurked something that was contrary to good order and discipline. One reason why the men's party was so certain that the dead souls connoted something contrary to good order and discipline was that there had just been appointed to a province a new governor-general, an event which, of course, had thrown the whole army of provincial chinovniks into a state of great excitement, seeing that they knew that before long there would ensue transferments and sentences of censure, as well as a series of official dinners with which a governor-general is accustomed to entertain his subordinates. Alas, thought the army of chinovniks, it is probable that, should he learn of the gross reports at present afloat in our town, he will make such a fuss that we shall never hear the last of them. In particular, did the director of the medical department turn pale at the thought that possibly the new governor-general could surmise the term dead folk to connote patients in the local hospitals who, for want of proper preventative measures, had died of sporadic fever. Indeed, might it not be that Chichikov was neither more nor less than an emissary of the said governor-general, sent to conduct a secret inquiry? Accordingly, the director of the medical department communicated this last supposition to the president of the council, who, though at first inclined to ejaculate "Rubbish!" suddenly turned pale on propounding to himself this theory. What if the souls purchased by Chichikov could really be dead ones? A terrible thought, considering that he, the president, had permitted their transferment to be registered, and had himself acted as Plushkin's representative. But if these things should reach the governor-general's ears? He mentioned the matter to one friend and another, and they, in their turn, went white to the lips, for panic spreads faster, and is even more destructive than the dreaded Black Death. Also, to add to the chinovniks' troubles, it so befell that just at this juncture there came into the local governor's hands 2 documents of great importance. The first of them contained advices that, according to received evidence and reports, there was operating in the province a forger of rouble notes,